Good afternoon, everybody. This is Man Coverage. It is actually Tuesday, November 8th, 2022. We're talking college football week 10. Sorry for the late publication here, but I was down, so I apologize. But James, it's good to see your face again. How are you, sir?
And it better be a crime.
Good to hear. We still, even though we missed talking to everybody on Sunday, we did still have college football on Saturday, and we had a couple of pretty solid games, actually. That's why we're here now, because we do need to discuss. We couldn't just let this go by and not pretend like it didn't happen, because it did happen. And obviously the first place we need to head is down to Athens, Georgia, where the Volunteers took their undefeated 8-0 record on the road, went between the hedges, and got beat. I got to be honest with you. I didn't think it was as bad as some people did. I mean, if you really look at the meat and potatoes of the game, the Vols made a lot of adjustments at halftime, only gave up 3 points in the second half. And as I've told numerous people, if you go back and watch that game, there was 3 times that the receivers for Tennessee got behind the defensive backs. Hendon Hooker dropped back, went to throw it to him, and overthrew them all 3 times. He hasn't missed an open guy downfield like that all season long. He hits 2 of those guys, the game's tied. He hits all 3 of them, they win. James, what did you think about Georgia winning that one down in Athens?
Well, I mean, you and I talked about it last week, where it was going to be whoever comes out first and punches someone in the face is going to have the advantage. And Georgia came to play. I mean, that's one thing I've noticed with Tennessee, even going back to the Pitt game, is they're not as aggressive on the road as they are at home. They came out passive. They got punched in the face and kind of took it. I mean, you look at from an explosion standpoint, Tennessee did not have one explosion play the entire day. That is just remarkable. I mean, honestly, I was shocked. I mean, that Georgia kept everything in front of them. They were basically playing the boundary, trying to force guys underneath. That pick by Keely Ringo over basically boxing out Tillman was an amazing pick. That was, I mean, Hendon Hooker had it on the money. Tillman just couldn't get around Ringo, and Ringo really, I mean, they're gonna show that when Keely Ringo gets drafted in the first round, whenever he comes out, because that was an amazing play. I mean, Georgia looked at what Tennessee did and really executed well. And I mean, now, do I still think Tennessee can beat Georgia? Absolutely. Tennessee did not play their best game by far, but I mean, you got it. Tennessee's their rhythm team. If they get out there and get going quick, and I don't see Georgia coming down and tackling as they kept everything in front of them and tackling so well after catches have been made. I mean, they every single time they wrapped up, and there's nothing that really blew up on them.
Yeah, no, my biggest, concern with Tennessee all day was they never got into their tempo offense. Yeah. They come out, they've got one of those quick slants on first down. They pick up 6-7 yards. Then they run to the line. They hand it off. They keep the guys. They keep Georgia from substituting. They get going forward, and it becomes momentum. It becomes tempo. It becomes hard to stop. And it was Tennessee had a very difficult time doing that. But I do look at the positives. I mean, the positives to me from this game for the Volunteers side of things is really 37 carries for 130 yards. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's not that great. I mean, I thought Georgia would be able to run the ball at a much higher rate. I mean, they averaged 3.5 yards a carry, only had 1 rushing touchdown, and that 1 rushing touchdown was Stetson Bennett on that scamper. Yeah. I thought the Vols defense held up pretty good. The passing game was exposed a little bit. 257 total passing yards, 15.1 average. McConkey got behind guys quite a bit, and that's because the corners for the Vols aren't very good.
Yeah.
They're playing their second and third string guys. One dude is a transfer. The other guys are very young and inexperienced and not that great. I mean, if I had to pick a weak point of this Vols team, I would say it's the secondary. And kudos to Georgia for going after those guys. But I think the Vols have a lot to to build on from these first 9 games. This loss may end up helping them moving forward.
It's something easy. You look back at Tennessee's past wins, they were getting penetration on the quarterback. Stetson Bennett was not getting touched.
That's
and
true.
I mean, those D-backs, I don't care if you got Deion Sanders as all 4 of your D-backs.
Yeah.
They can't cover forever. They're going to get tired. They're going to wear down. And I mean, Stetson Bennett, his jersey was awfully clean, except when he ran on his own.
No, Tennessee had 0 sacks.
Yeah. I mean, well, another thing is how many false freaking starts, and some of them were like really bad false starts.
7.
Like there was one where they're not even close to being lined up to go. Like they're still looking over at the sidelines and the tackle jumps. Like they're 5-10 seconds away from a snap and this tackle jumps. And I'm like, I mean, granted, it's loud there, but watch the freaking ball.
They had 7 false starts. They had a legal formation. So that's at least 8 plays where they were going backwards. That's not a good thing against this defense.
It's tough to play tempo and get in a rhythm if you're constantly get up to the line, flag, move back. Now you got to go back to the huddle and try to re-engage that. It's not like plug and play. There's a rhythm and rhyme to it. Granted, it was a tale of 2 halves. Tennessee looked way better in the second half. They looked like they finally took a breath. The game wasn't too big for them, and they played a lot better. But that first half, they got punched in the face, and they just couldn't recover.
Yeah, 7 false starts and 6 sacks the offensive line gave up for the Vols. So and then you add in the legal formation, that's 14 plays going backwards. It's hard to beat the number 1 team in the nation with that. But I do have to also give credit to I thought the linebackers for Tennessee played amazing. Jawan Mitchell, he was everywhere. That guy, came in this year and really took over one of those linebacker spots. Jeremy Banks also, I thought, played very well. So there is some positives to take from this game for Tennessee. Some of the people were down about this. Some of the fans down here were upset, and rightfully so. But honestly, if you look at it from a total, from an outside total perspective, this game I think wasn't as bad as it appears. As I mentioned, you said as well, tale of 2 halves. Second half, giving up only 3 points, and the offense moved the ball a little bit better. They had trouble scoring, but they were able to move the ball a little bit in the second half. So I think this may be a wake-up call for them.
Tennessee has got to get – when you got into the red zone and the field started to shrink, Tennessee started to basically pucker up a little bit. And, let's be honest, if you're constantly kicking field goals and the other team's scoring touchdowns, it's kind of hard to come back. And Tennessee likes that long field. They live on the explosion play and the tempo and getting in that rhythm. Another circumstance, neutral field, we may be talking a different game, but on the flip side with Georgia, if people rewatch this game, Jalen Carter is as good as advertised. I mean, if you want to look at a game to really look at this kid, watch him, especially on the near safety. That kid explodes off the ball. Like,
oh my God.
Wow. I felt bad for that offensive lineman because he just got creamed.
I'm so glad that you brought that up because I almost forgot to mention that. Obviously the kid that got drafted by the Eagles from last year,
Jordan Davis,
thank you. Jordan Davis was a man.
Yeah.
And that guy is, a freak with his size and his quickness and his speed and everything that he did for them last year and the things that he's doing in the NFL, except when he's been injured here. the last couple of weeks. But I actually thought Jalen Carter was better last year.
I did too.
And I'm watching this year, and I'm like, damn, I wasn't crazy. This guy is amazing. He's one of the best defensive tackles in college football. Honestly, I'd probably put him. I'd probably rank him as the best defensive tackle that I've seen all year. And that's where agree. It starts with Georgia. That's where it starts with them, is up front with Jalen Carter. That guy's unblockable.
This is a weird comp, okay? But just look at it from his twitch capability of just getting off the ball. He reminds me a lot of Warren Sapp when he was.
I was just about to say that. Yeah, I mean, I agree.
Holy crap! I mean, his reaction time is phenomenal. It is crazy, and honestly, even with as good a quarterback draft as we're looking at potentially, I mean, I could still see Jalen Carter going top 5.
I would take him in the top 5 for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, if I needed a defensive lineman and didn't need a quarterback, I would take Jalen Carter, potentially number 1. I mean, this guy is a game changer.
Yeah.
And he's 6'3". He's 300 pounds. He can rush the passer. He can stop the run. He's got 2 forced fumbles. I mean, this guy is a machine. And I think he's the straw that stirs the drink for Georgia's defense, and it all starts with him up front.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you brought that up, because I meant to mention that he's damn good, and he was a big reason why they were, he was a big reason why the offensive line for Tennessee was false starting and having issues. They knew what was coming after him, and it was 88 coming after him all day long. So we'll see. But, the good news is for all the teams in the SEC that Nick Saban's completely forgotten how to coach. He has no idea what he's doing out there, according to Paul Feinbaum. And, he blew another one. Now Bama has lost 2 games by a total of 4 points, and everybody's ready to have Nick Saban retire. It's absolutely ridiculous. I guess if you win every game for, 15 years, everybody expects you to continue to win every game. But let's be honest, man. I mean, their defense is not the same as they have been. And I don't think that, talking about Crimson Tide, I don't think that their skill players are as good as they have been in the past. And
the receivers are immature. They're very immature.
Yeah, I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs is their best wide receiver, and he's their running back. Their most consistent guy. Now, Ja'Cory Brooks had a really good game, 7 catches for 97 yards. McClellan is a pretty good player as well, but McClellan's also kind of a running back. So, the wide receivers that we're used to seeing at Bama are not there, but yet they still put up 31 points in Death Valley. So, obviously the offense isn't the issue. But, let's talk about LSU for a minute. I mean, I watched that first game of the year against Florida State, and I was kind of like, whoa, Coach Kelly inherited a mess from the old Raging Cajun. And I was like, it might take him a while to get this thing back going. And it hasn't taken them very long, because they are a completely different team. I mean, Jaden Daniels, I think, still leaves a lot to be desired from the passing game, but he's doing enough throwing the ball that his legs are still, he's still able to create with his legs. I mean, 18 carries for 95 yards and a touchdown. He had that long 31-yard scamper to basically, take it to overtime. The 2-point conversion was a great call, I thought. I didn't feel like if LSU kept going in this overtime thing that they were going to win. So I really liked the go for 2 call. Tell me what you thought about this game, James, and what you thought about Bama losing their second game of the season.
There are 3 things I want to bring up on this. First and foremost, I want to talk about Pete Golding, Pete Golding, the defensive coordinator. This was so odd. Jaden Daniels runs for 95 yards on you, and he was picking up at a pretty good clip. It's not like it's some secret that he'll run the ball.
Yeah.
Why
he runs it every time?
Yeah. Why are they running man and keeping nobody to spy on him? Nobody. And then they would turn around when they realized they're getting gashed a bunch of times. Oh, maybe we should play some zone. And I just sat there and just was like questioning myself, like, what is going on here? It always felt like Alabama was always behind rather than setting the tone of the game. Now, Bill O'Brien, I don't know what in the world's going on with him and his play calling, because it seems if it wasn't for Bryce Young, this game could have really gotten out of hand. I think honestly, Bryce Young is having a better year this year than he did last year during his Heisman Trophy, because he's having to really carry a load because the receiving core is very immature. And the offensive line is always under pressure. I mean, this guy seems like he always can find a way to get the rabbit out of the hat. But provide some shorter routes for Young to get the ball out quicker. I mean, at some point, Young could get hurt, and then what's going to happen with Alabama? I mean, if Young was hurt going in this week against Ole Miss, I'm not going to lie, Alabama would probably be predicted to win, but I'd take Ole Miss.
Yeah, well, I'm taking Bama. I do not see Nick Saban losing to this Ole Miss team. And I think they're going to fix a lot of things. I think they learned a lot about themselves from this game. And they, as I said, they've lost 2 games by 4 points total.
Yeah.
In this game, they lost by 1 in a 2-point conversion. So I'm not giving up on this Bama team. And like you said, Bryce Young, how many times were they in the backfield and going like this, about to grab Bryce Young, and he'd duck his head, he'd move to the left or right? I mean, the way that guy feels pressure and gets away from it is just unbelievable.
How he composes himself to get off a good throw. Like, honestly, sit there and watch, and I'm like thinking, like, this reminds me of like Virginia Tech Michael Vick, except Michael Vick never seemed like to gather himself. Bryce Young gathers himself and can just nail an incredible throw time and time and time again. Like, I have gained so much respect for him watching him this year, because he looks so much more complete. Even with all of his extra duties dealing with NIL, because I saw him on some TV ad with his dad. I mean, there's a lot on this kid, and he's still a hell of a gamer. The one thing I was happy to see from LSU side, they called a good game. They finally got a game where they got Keyshawn Butte in play quite a bit. I mean, 7 catches, by far the most he's had this year.
They're starting to throw him the ball and complete passes to him, and they're starting to win. I mean, it's funny how that works when you get your best player the football.
It's ironic.
You start to win. But if you think, as I mentioned, they lost that opener to Florida State, and they looked horrible in the first half of that game.
Yeah.
But if you recall, they came back, and the guy missed the extra point, or they would have won that game.
Yeah.
And so really, after that, they played Southern, won 65-17. They beat Mississippi State 31-16. They beat New Mexico 38-0. They kind of played rough against Auburn 21-17, and then they got demolished by Tennessee 40-13. That's really the only game that this team did not even show up, and we've learned Tennessee's pretty good. So how good is this LSU team, James, and how far can they go? Do you think that they can win the rest of their games? I mean, they're at Arkansas this weekend, and then they've got UAB, which they will win, and then they go to Texas A&M. Can they finish out, with just the 2 losses?
Can I say something that you won't start laughing completely at? I think the UAB game is going to be the toughest game they have on the way out.
Really?
Arkansas does not look good, and A&M is just bad. I mean, they're just not good. I mean, if any of those 3 games are within 3 touchdowns, I'd be shocked. LSU is going to blow them all out. They're going to go 10-2, and I picked them to finish dead last in the SEC West, because I thought this was going to be a dumpster fire this year.
You did pick that.
I mean, Brian Kelly. Once again, I've underestimated Brian Kelly.
Right,
And
a lot of people did. Notre
yeah,
Dame fans were ready. Were so acted like they pretended to be excited that he was
yeah.
leaving, and we found out real quick that wasn't the best idea to do. Arkansas lost to Liberty 21-19, but they did beat BYU, which I thought was an impressive win.
It
And
was at the time, but BYU does not look good right now.
I know, but at the time, BYU was a decent team, and Arkansas showed up that game. So I don't know. I think Arkansas is not just going to lay over for them. I think Arkansas will give them a tougher game than you think. But A&M, wow, that's another topic for another day. We'll circle back to A&M because there's a lot to unpack with those guys. It is a disaster.
They're the worst Aggies team in the country by record.
Yes.
Worse than New Mexico State, worse than UC Davis, worse than Utah State. Picking Aggies, they're worse.
Well, the only real good news for the Aggies is that Vanderbilt is also in the SEC.
Well,
so that's about the only good news that that the Texas A&M has going for them, because they're not going to be the worst team in the conference with Vanderbilt there. So it's about the only positive I can come up with.
Hey, how many kids from A&M would get into Vanderbilt? I think the over-under would be 2.
Yeah, not many, but wow, I don't know, that thing is falling apart. And as we've discussed on this show many times, there's nothing they can do.
No,
Jimbo's there. As I mentioned in the previous episode, you can't fire him. I mean, they would have to pay him $86 million if they fired him after the season. That's not going to happen.
Well, they keep talking about how all these guys were out last week with the flu. What, the transfer flu? Is that like a pandemic now in College Station? Because you and I both know the transfer portal train is going right through that town, and it's going to take a lot of people out with them. I mean,
oh yeah, I think some of these guys are going to be hitting the road, real quick, because they're going to take their money and run. That's the beauty of this NIL thing for these players. They can't lock these kids into a college by the money. I mean, they can pay these kids, and they can pay them to go to the schools. I mean, they're not supposed to, but they are doing it. But you can't pay to keep them there.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of these kids are going to Quinn Ewers it and put their money in their pocket and run elsewhere. But we'll see how that works out. The next game that I would like to dig into is one that I really, really enjoyed watching. I have to say, this was a lot of fun for me. Drew Pine for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, he only threw the ball successfully 9 times. I don't know if any of y'all are old enough to know what Ferris Bueller is, but there's a famous portion of that movie where the guy goes 9 times. And yet Notre Dame still kicked the ever-loving crap out of Clemson. Logan Diggs, 17 carries, 114 yards. Estime, 18 carries, 104 yards. Chris Tyree had some carries. Drew Pine had some carries. 263 yards Notre Dame put on the ground against this vaulted Clemson defense. DJU looked like DJU. He's just not great. I mean, I'm sorry. We've seen this over and over again. He's just not that good. None of these receivers for Clemson really blow me away. They're good. I mean, they have talent there, but they're just not. It's not T. Higgins. It's not Sammy Watkins. It's not the guys that we're used to seeing. And they got beat. It was 35-0. Clemson came back at the very end and put 2 scores on the board, but at one point this game was 35-0. Kind of embarrassing for Clemson when they were supposed to be a top 4 team. What did you make of this?
Honestly, and I heard this analysis on Sunday, and it makes a lot of sense, is you look at Clemson's entire staff. They all came from lower schools or other places, or not even coaching before. They don't have other Power 5 experience. So when things go wrong, they can't say, well, at this school, we did this. How about we try this? Nobody has that because all they've done has been Clemsified. What do they do? I mean, I think this is bigger than a DJU problem. I think this is a cultural problem at Clemson where you may want to start over and bring in some outsiders, kind of like when they brought in Venables and they brought in Morris, and to kind of start over and get a fresh thought process, because everybody in this system comes from someplace else. Now, they could solve one of their old problems by bringing Jeff Scott, who recently became made available. He can come back to Clemson and be the offensive coordinator and have, what he learned at South Florida and all the losses he had there. But they got to have more than just him. I mean, they just all over the board. They just have a bunch of guys that lived in a Clemson system and don't have a more worldly view to it, because how is it that they could run for 47 carries, 263 yards, 5.6 a clip on a defense where there's a minimum of 2, possibly 3 first-round draft picks just on that defensive line?
Well, yeah, and their linebackers are no jokes either. I mean,
Absolutely.
Jeremiah Trotter Jr. is a pretty solid football player. McGuire's good. And then you start talking about Miles Murphy and Breezy and those guys. I mean, there's some NFL players on that defense, and they got worked. I don't know what to say. I mean, I did predict that Notre Dame would win this game. I mean, I thought Notre Dame would win.
Yeah.
I did not think they would demolish them and beat them by 4 touchdowns. I never expected that. I thought that Clemson's defense would keep it close. Yeah, I mean, what the hell? Where the hell did the Clemson Tigers go from here? I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, I got to be honest with you. I'm taking Louisville this weekend. They play Louisville at 3:30 Eastern Standard, and I'm taking the Cardinals. And then they still have to play Miami, which they're going to win that game. And then they got to play South Carolina. We'll see. But I think Louisville's looked better the last few weeks, and I think Louisville can get them a game too, don't you?
I agree. I think they'll beat I know they'll beat Miami. I know they'll beat South Carolina, but Louisville, that's possible. The one thing in this stat is going to blow people away.
Malik Cunningham's a better quarterback than Drew Pine.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. 100%. 100%.
So
here's a statistic that I found funny. Now, obviously, Notre Dame has 3 losses this year, 1 to the Ohio State University, but then 2 weird ones, 1 to Marshall and 1 to Stanford. Now, Stanford's not good. Let's just be really bluntly honest with everybody here. And Marshall,
not that good either.
They're not that good either. But they have played the 3 best teams in the ACC and beat North Carolina by 10 plus. They beat Syracuse by 10 plus. And now dropped a 20 plus on Clemson. That's the 3 best teams.
Yeah.
I think the ACC is a hurting freaking unit.
Oh, it's garbage.
I mean, I think it's by far the worst conference this year. By far.
Oh, I agree. I mean, Miami was supposed to be good. They are a dumpster fire. Florida State is Florida State. They've got talented players, but they're never really a cohesive team that plays up to their potential. Clemson, I think, has been overrated all year long. They've kind of skated by in some games that they easily could have lost. NC State, to me, has kind of been a disappointment. I thought that NC State would be better, and I kind of predicted them to be a better football team than they are. Wake Forest, they got creamed by Louisville last week or week ago, 2 weeks ago, 48-21. So, Pitt has been kind of a disappointing team. Boston College sucks. Syracuse has kind of been the one bright spot, and they're not really that good either. So I don't know. I don't know what to say about the ACC except it's not a good conference. And we thought Syracuse was good, and they've lost 3 in a row now. So I don't know who's going to play in the ACC championship game. I mean,
North Carolina and who?
it has to be Clemson, right?
I mean, that is going to be a game that's going to get such low ratings that it's not even. I mean, it's going to be Clemson. I mean, Clemson versus North Carolina, but who's going to watch it unless you're in the Carolinas?
Well, who watched it last year when it was Wake Forest versus Pitt?
Yeah,
nobody. That conference is hurting, and we talked about it. With the expansion of the Big Ten, with the expansion of the SEC. Those conferences are already better than them, and those conferences are adding solid football programs. I mean, Oklahoma and Texas are going to improve the SEC. UCLA, USC, both teams are having fantastic years and improve the Big Ten substantially. And we've kind of been sitting here waiting. What's the ACC going to do? And so far, they've done nothing except get worse in football. And I think this game here showed us that even the elite team in the ACC that's supposed to be, the college football playoff contender is not a college football playoff contender. And this takes me back to something, I know we talk about this all the time, but do you pull DJU now and just put Cade Klubnik in and
why not
let him play? I mean, why?
What do you have to lose?
I don't know. He won't do. He put him in for one play. He throws a pick six. He takes him out and he doesn't put him back in. I'm like, you're not going to win this game anyway. Why not let him get some experience and see if he can help, kind of bring this team back? What's the point of putting him out there for one play and having him throw a pick six and pulling him out? What good does that do?
If I were him, play Clay Klubnik. He's so worried about transfers and all that. Just, and I give Dabo credit on being as loyal as he humanly possibly can, but at some point you just got to cut bait. And if I'm DJU, I'd probably transfer, and I would probably head back out west. And I think there are plenty of places where I think he could really, really benefit. I mean, depending on who gets hired at Arizona State, that could be a perfect landing spot. It'd be interesting to see, him and Jed Fish work together, because Fish has been known to deal. I mean, as long as he doesn't overcomplicate things like he's done at some places, he can work with quarterbacks.
What about UCLA?
The problem with UCLA is they just run the ball so much. Do you want DJU to run that much?
Well, I know, but I mean, DTR doesn't run it every play.
True. No, that actually is not a bad idea. I think that
would help him having that type of a running game behind him. I think that would help DJU's, passing ability, and I think that would take some of the pressure off him. Having a running game and having a back like Charbonnet behind him.
True. No, I could see UCLA. I didn't think I was staying away from UCLA, but now the more you say it, UCLA makes sense, because Chip Kelly and him I think he's got to get down from 235 though.
He lost 20 pounds, man. He looks like a different guy this year. So
yeah,
I could see him doing that, but we'll see what happens, but I really think it's time to make the switch. I mean, I don't understand. He pulled Kelly Bryant out when they were still winning games, and he just, obviously Trevor Lawrence was better, but Kelly Bryant was a good college quarterback. And
yeah, he was.
Look at his record at Clemson. I mean, he won almost every game he played in, and was from South Carolina, and if ever he was going to be loyal to somebody, I thought it would be Kelly Bryant. And hell, he shipped his ass off quicker than you could say lickety split. So I don't understand why he's refusing. Maybe they think they're getting DJU's brother, and he doesn't want to, sever all ties with the family because he thinks they may have a shot at him. I have no idea, but it didn't make any sense to me to pull him, put Cade Klubnik out there for one play, and then take him out. That just made no sense to me. Not that I'm saying that Dabo's not a good coach, because he's proven to be a very good coach, but questionable decision there. Another game where it was a little, I got to be honest, I was a little hot watching this one. I did not expect Northwestern to put. Well, you know what? That's not true. I expected Northwestern to put up a fight. There's a reason that Pat Fitzgerald has been the coach there, for almost 20 years. There's a reason why. He's a good coach. He gets every single thing he can out of his players, and he knows the game of college football as well or better than anyone you can think of. And he came up with a great game plan. The old Lord helped him out too, with the 40-mile-an-hour gusts. And this is all I'm going to say about it. But if you watched the pregame warm-ups, the guys were trying to kick field goals. They would run and take a swing at it as hard as they could from the 35, and the ball would go up and land on the goal line. Noah Ruggles, who's proven to be a good kicker. So, the wind was a factor. Ohio State couldn't throw the football at all. And so it turned into a game where they needed to run it. And for some reason, Coach Day kept trying to throw the ball. And I think that was because he thought maybe when they went the other way and went with the wind that he could do it. But then the ball just flew over their heads. Yeah. So, they when they're going the one direction, he would throw it. It would go right into the ground. And when they would switch and go the other way in the next quarter, it would go 10 feet over 10 yards over their heads. So throwing the ball wasn't going to work. And the Buckeyes had to figure out a way to run the ball. But I thought that Northwestern did a really good job, running the 40-second clock out on every play and shortening the game. And then two, their lines held up pretty well. What did you think about this game and its totality, with Ohio State coming away with the 21-7 victory? What did you think about Fitzgerald's game plan and how Northwestern came out?
Well, it's playing at Ryan Field is like playing at a library. If you've ever been, it's probably the quietest place you're ever going to play at. And a team like Ohio State, who thrives off big environments and big crowds and a lot of noise, it's culture shock, plus the wind, plus the rain. And it's deep into the fall in the Midwest. It's cold. Honestly, it didn't shock me that Ohio State came out flat and really had to repurpose their game to be a grinding team. I mean, their offensive line, honestly, as of late, has not done a good job run blocking for them. And they had to manufacture it. And having a guy like Mayan Williams who really gets those meat and potato yards. I mean, I don't think this kid nearly gets the credit he deserves.
I agree.
I mean, ever since he had that 70-yard run last year against Minnesota on that busted play, I just sat there and watched this kid. And he just does all the little things right. And I could see him being a third or fourth round draft pick in the NFL and being a starter because he just doesn't make mistakes. Does he have the flash of a Travion Henderson? No. But you know something? You need 5 yards, he'll get you 5 yards. And that's what coaches look for, a guy that's going to help move the chains. Now, on the flip side, a kid that many people don't know, but I kind of know a little bit because he grew up in Minnesota, was a starting tailback for Northwestern. That's Evan Hull. This kid was very under-recruited out of Maple Grove, a very good high school football program. I mean, the kid went for 30 carries for 100-plus yards. I mean, this kid is a very strong 122. He's a very strong runner. Does he have blazing speed? No. He's like a smaller version of Mayan Williams, but he's just very low center of gravity, will not fumble the ball, will get you those type of yards. And they just relied on him, and Ohio State had really struggled trying to tackle him throughout the day.
No, he did really well. He was running hard, and they were running. I don't know if all of our listeners and viewers watched the entire game, but they were mixing up what they were doing. I mean, they were really complicating their running attack. I mean, they would line up in the wildcat. They would snap it to the guy, the up back. He would run the opposite direction that everybody was blocking in. They were running misdirection. They were doing a really good job mixing it up. And, they ran for 206 yards, but they also had 59 carries. So, it's only 3.5 a carry. This game kind of was what it was. the biggest takeaway to me, I guess maybe I'm just not the doom and gloom Buckeye fan. I was like, wow, we got out of there with a win. Thank God, let's move on. Everybody else thinks they're chicken littling it and think the sky is falling. I don't think so. I mean, the biggest thing I took away was CJ Stroud can run the football. Yeah. I've never seen this guy run the football in my life. And that 44-yard carry that he had was huge in this game. That pretty much put it away. And he had 6 carries for 79 yards. He outgained himself on the ground, more so than he threw. He had 76 yards passing and 70 yards rushing. I was pretty impressed with him and the way that he did not get frustrated and kind of kept his cool and, just did what he had to do to get this win. I thought was pretty impressive.
And I know a lot of Ohio State fans were doing a lot of doom and gloom, saying things are so bad, blah, blah, blah. Go back to 2014, back when they won the national championship, and they played a game at home against Indiana where Tevin Coleman went nuts. I mean, deep into the third, Indiana was winning and really kind of like, even though they only had like a 6-point lead, really controlling the game. And then Jalen Marshall scored 4 touchdowns to close it out. 4. I mean, and that was the year they won the national championship. But Indiana really was controlling that game. I mean, heck, Tevin Coleman had a 90-yard run on 1 touchdown where he just blew by everybody. And they still found a way to win. It's survive and advance. Because guess what? When you play for the national championship, it's usually in a dome stadium, and there is not 40 or 50 mile an hour winds with driving rain in a dome stadium. Otherwise, there's something really, really wrong.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt. And, this game was what it was. Like we said, I mean, they didn't play their best game. Now, I will, Mine Williams is phenomenal. And as I agree with you 100%, he doesn't get the recognition that he deserves. I think that he is one of the best running backs in the country. But for whatever reason, in the first half, there were several times where there was a little bit of a crease and he was not hitting it.
Yeah.
And he was kind of running into the back of his lineman or running right where the defender was. And that was kind of confusing to me. Now, I'm not saying that the offensive line had a great day. They didn't. They needed to be stronger. They needed to get a better push than they did. It kind of looked to me like Northwestern was more fired up for this game.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. Ohio State's going to get everybody's best game.
Well, yeah, they are. They always do. It's like Duke in basketball.
Yeah,
I mean, people want to beat Ohio State. And then you got a team that's 1-7. They have nothing to lose. So, and they came out like it was their, Super Bowl or whatever. And they did really play hard. And that's, kind of depressing to see your team not come out firing on all cylinders. But at the same time, there was some plays where there was a little gap. Mayan was kind of missing it, or he was running sideways instead of forwards, and that was causing some problems. But I'm not ready to just dismiss this offensive line and say that they're not good. I mean, we've been able to run the football all year long.
I'm not saying they're not good. I just think they have not been good late. They have not played well lately. I mean, they're gonna have to up their game when we get closer to the Michigan game, and I think they will.
I think they will too. The good news is that we don't have to run the football to win. We don't have to run the football at all. We've won several games this year where we couldn't run it and we didn't run it. But the thing is that when we've had to run it to win a game, they've done it and they've been able to do it. There's been a couple of games that for whatever reason, the Notre Dame game is the best example, in my opinion, where they just couldn't get behind Notre Dame for whatever reason. And they had to run the ball to win. And the Iowa game too, they had trouble, breaking out with the passing game, and they ran it and were able to win. In this game too, they couldn't throw the ball at all and still were able to win. So I kind of look at this as a positive unlike a negative like everybody else. And, I believe in Coach Day. You can say whatever you want to about the guy, but he's 43-4.
Yeah.
Pretty sure that's good, right?
Last time I'm not a math major, but 33-4. I mean, that's pretty good.
Yeah, 43-4.
43. Sorry,
43. Yeah, 43.
I mean, that's only let's see here, 43 divided by 4, or no, wait, 43 divided by 47. That's only a 91.49 winning percentage. Not too bad.
Pretty solid.
Absolutely.
Pretty solid. So we'll see what happens moving forward. They've got Indiana this week, and that should be hopefully a game they'll be a little bit more excited for. But let's talk a little Pac-12 here if we can, because we haven't really hit on the Pac-12. One game that I want to talk about is the USC game real quick. They struggled against Cal. They were ahead pretty handily, and then gave up 21 points in the fourth quarter to a Cal team that I just don't think they're very good, and it ended up being a pretty close game. Now I know, like I said, a lot of those points for Cal were in the fourth quarter, but what's your take on USC? Are they a team that you think could win the Pac-12 and get into the playoff somehow, or is that crazy talk?
Anything's possible. I just don't think. I think we should be taught. They could win the Pac-12. Do I think they would beat Oregon in the Pac-12 championship? No. They just don't have the defense. You give up 35 to Cal. Jack Plummer, 35. Of 49. Now Jack Plummer, when he was at Purdue, was a good quarterback. But at Cal's offense is brutal.
They're horrible.
Brutal. And they threw up 35 points. Going through this season, that was their second highest. Third. Yeah, let's see here. They put up 35, 24, 21, 13, 9. They put up 49 on Arizona. Other than that, not even close. It just, their offense is just not good. It hasn't been good for many years, since Jeff Tedford was standing on the sidelines.
Yeah, Nate Longshore was behind center.
Oh, heck, you had Keenan Allen, you had Javid Best. You had receivers, running backs galore on that team. And now
Justin Forsett, Marshawn Lynch,
Deshaun Jackson. The list goes on. Heck, JJ Arrington.
Yeah.
I look at USC's defense, and it's like literally watching a replica of what we saw at Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And they got to get better, and they got to get better quick.
Yeah, I agree.
Offensively, they're great.
Yeah.
But, how can you not be with Caleb Williams, Jordan Addison, Malik Washington? Come on. Travis Dye. Heck, if you can't win with that, then you should get out of coaching.
Well, Michael Jackson had an unbelievable game. I think he had 5 catches for 115 yards. I hadn't even heard of that guy.
Yeah. And
he had a huge game. He's a sophomore out of Las Vegas. He's kind of a guy that no one's really talked about, and he had a huge game. They built a team, the best team money could buy with the transfer portal. There's no doubt. They handed out some cash and got some really good offensive talent, but they need to improve the other side of the ball. And when I look at the Pac-12 as a whole, I like Oregon, and honestly, I like UCLA better than I do USC for some reason.
Agreed.
Maybe I'm nuts. I actually like Utah better than I like USC.
Yeah, I do too. I think Utah's D-backs are just not as strong as they've been in the past. But I agree with you. 100%.
Utah beat them. So, I was 43-42. It was a very close game, but I'm just saying Utah beat, USC. That's their one defeat. So we'll see what happens with those guys going forward. Oregon obviously rolled. They're continuing to get better, it seems like.
Bo Nix looks great. Honest to God, he looks like such a different quarterback in the last 4 weeks. Like,
Right.
if you could eliminate that Georgia game from your memory, honestly, we'd be probably talking Heisman talk right now.
Yeah, no, and we always point out when we're right about shit, but we need to also point out we were pretty wrong about him.
Oh, completely.
I mean, I'm just being honest. I did not
fully agree.
see it. I didn't see it with him. I just never really was in love with him at Auburn. And, I watched that first game against Georgia, and I was like, this looks like, the same old Bo Nix. And then, ever since then, he's looked like a different dude. And, he caught a touchdown pass. He ran a touchdown, 2 touchdowns in. He threw 2 touchdowns. And then, like I said, he caught a touchdown. That was pretty impressive. And Bucky Irving, nobody's talking about. He had 11 carries for 120 yards.
I've been talking about Bucky Irving for some time.
You have, but no one else has.
This kid is got electric hips. Like, when Minnesota lost him in the transfer portal, I'm not gonna lie, I almost shed a little tear, because this kid's special. This kid's got unbelievable hips.
He's averaging 7 yards a carry.
Yeah. I mean, does he have great straight line speed? No. But honest to God, his cutting ability is unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah, he had a 65-yard run this weekend. So,
by the way, Bo Nix did something for the first time since somebody who's been on our show has done something.
You're going to have to elaborate.
2 passing touchdowns, 2 running touchdowns, and a receiving touchdown by a quarterback in one game. Last time it was done, Josh Harris.
Oh, yes, Josh Harris. I did see that. Josh Harris's son is taking off too, so we might have to have him back on the program, because
absolutely,
he's blowing it up. And another gentleman that we had on the show, former Arizona quarterback George Malauulu, his son is killing it at Poly, and he's only a junior. So take a look at that kid if you get a chance, because he's having a phenomenal season out there in California. So talking about the Pac-12, though, like I said, right now I would rank it. I would put Oregon number 1 on my list. I think they're the best team right now in the Pac-12. I would say, USC, UCLA, and Utah, those are kind of my second tier teams. And then, Oregon State, who I thought was pretty good, they lost to Washington, and Washington's 7-2 now. They're a team I can't figure out, because one week they'll look great, and the next week, not so much. What do you think about Washington?
Going into the year, I was a huge Kalen DeBoer fan. I mean, everywhere this guy's been, he's been a winner. I think they're just immature, quite frankly, as a whole, because, I mean, this is a very radically different offense than we saw under Jimmy Lake, where they were beyond conservative, and now they're the wild, wild west, where they're throwing all over the place. It's going to be interesting to see after Penix leaves and Heward gets in there and they get more maturity, what he could do there up in Seattle. But I mean, you look at who's going to play Oregon for the Pac-12 title. I mean, are you still thinking UCLA?
I think so. I think UCLA is going to beat USC.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to play Oregon in the conference championship game. And those two teams already played, and Oregon beat them, but I think that was up in Oregon and Eugene. Yeah. I think that on a neutral site, I think UCLA might have a better chance of taking them down.
Yeah.
So before we get out of here, we got to talk a little Big 12 also. TCU, another one we missed on, buddy. I had no clue that TCU would be 9-0. I mean, if you told me that TCU was going to start the season 9-0 and be ranked in the top 7 and potentially higher, I told you were crazy. They won another one and beat Texas Tech 34-24. Not like a real explosive game passing wise for Max Duggan, but they continue to give the ball to Miller, who had 158 yards. How how good is TCU?
Honestly, I think they're going to go as far as their defense takes them. I mean, we said at the beginning of the year that they were going to score points. We all knew that. But without Quentin Johnson, their best receiver, they still put up 34. And their defense held them to 24, held Texas Tech to 24. And Texas Tech is an up-tempo offense that does a lot of plays.
Yeah.
I mean, Sonny Dykes has done a hell of a job in Fort Worth with this program. I mean, he has just really taken this team to a whole new level. I mean, a lot of coaches, when they come in, they don't know a lot of their personnel. He knew exactly what was happening because he was across the city in Dallas at SMU.
Yeah.
And he knew, he probably recruited every single one of those players. So when he walked in, he didn't have to get to know him. He already met him before. He already had relationships with them.
That's a good point.
And Max Dugan, quite frankly, a lot of it was just getting him confidence because there were other quarterbacks in that system too as well. I mean, it was not for sure he'd be even the starter up until that Oklahoma game.
Yeah, no, they didn't know who the starter was going to be. They had a competition going on through the end of camp.
Yeah.
So, a lot of people can say they knew TCU was going to be good, but most of them are full of crap because
Oh God,
I'm not sure TCU knew it.
I mean, I'm trying to remember why I picked TCU, but I thought it was closer to the middle bottom.
Yeah.
Grant, we said at the beginning, there's a lot of interchangeability in that conference. I mean, there are teams that could finish as low as 9th that we could see finishing the top 3. But, this is crazy. I mean, now it comes down to who are they going to play for the Big 12 title? I mean, Texas, Baylor, and K-State are all 4-2.
Well, I got to be honest. I know TCU's been great, and I know this has been a magical season, but I could see them losing 2 games down the stretch. They play Texas next week. They play Baylor at they go to Austin to play Texas. Then they go to Waco to play Baylor 2 weeks in a row. And I just don't see them they're not going to get out of both of those games without a loss.
Here's the X factor. All right. Gary Patterson literally was the Longhorn killer. Well, now the analyst is in Austin. And you can't tell me he's not jacked up for this weekend. Yeah. You know for a fact Gary Patterson wants to beat the Horned Frogs in a major, major way.
And they just had a big win taking out K-State.
Yeah.
To improve to 6-3. That was a huge game by them. Brian Robinson, 30 carries, 209 yards, ended up winning 34-27. Their defense actually came up with a big play, recovering a fumble to seal the game. That was huge. So I feel like Texas is going to beat TCU, and even if they don't, I think Baylor's got a chance. I mean, Baylor beat Oklahoma this weekend in Norman.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw that one, but
I did.
They beat Oklahoma in Norman. So now Oklahoma's 5-4 and 2-4 in the Big 12. That's embarrassing.
You know what's crazy is you look at next year's draft. There are so many running backs, and running back is such it's not like before where you'd see him go in the first and second round, but there's like a ton of running backs going in this draft that could be starting next year on NFL rosters. They have that type of talent. Oh, yeah. That it's going to be, Gibbs, Robinson, Corum. You go down the list, there's probably 12 I know that can get drafted that would be, in other drafts, it would go probably, below the 3rd round. Now, they could go back as far as they can get great value in the 5th.
Well, what about Kendre Miller at TCU? That guy's got over 1,000 yards and 12 touchdowns. He's averaging 7 yards a carry.
I know.
I'd take that guy all day long. So, I agree with you. And, the running back from Kansas, Mr. Neal, he had himself a day, Devin Neal. Now Devin Neal. He's only a sophomore.
Yeah.
So he's not going out in the draft next year, but he had himself a day against Oklahoma State. He had 32 carries for 224 yards. He also had 6 catches for 110 yards, and Kansas took down number 18 Oklahoma State for their 6th win.
Bowl eligible, which makes who is the longest Power 5 team to be non-bowl eligible?
I thought it was Kansas.
It's now Nebraska.
Well, before it was Kansas.
Before it was Kansas, but now it's Nebraska.
Yeah, well, it may continue to be. But, Kansas has got Texas Tech, Texas, and Kansas State. I think they've got a shot against Texas Tech. I don't know about the other two. Yeah. But, we could be talking about a 7-win Kansas Jayhawks team. That's pretty impressive. And I think your boy, Leopold, he's got a shot to be the coach of the year, don't you think?
Well, I mean, I would have said so, but how do you not give it to Sonny Dykes?
Yeah, that's true, too. We'll see. I mean, if they lose every game the rest of the year, I think you could go to Leopold,
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens there. But this Big 12 has been about as crazy as anything.
It's the most entertaining conference in America.
It really is. You have no clue. No one has any clue which team is going to win any of these games.
If you would have told me at the beginning of the year Kansas was going to be a bowl eligible, I would have said you're batshit crazy. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I think Leopold's a good coach? Absolutely. But I remember telling you before, like we were talking before the season, I'm like, this is a 4 to 5 year project.
Yeah.
And in year 2, he's got him to a bowl game. There's no telling what he could do. And the schools are going to come knocking. I just hope that KU administration and their boosters give him a nice contract to have him stay in Lawrence, because it'd be nice to see the Jayhawks be competitive for a while.
Yeah, they haven't been this good since old big boy Mangino was on the sidelines.
Absolutely.
That was quite some time ago. So,
well, he was a shape. He was round.
He was round. He was the roundest dude I've seen in a while. So, okay, here we go. Next week, we've got some ball games. We got Friday. We got Colorado versus USC. I'm going to be cheering for the Buffs. Hopefully, Coach Hagan and the boys can pull something out and take down USC, but I don't see that happening. It's a 34-point spread. But Saturday, November 12th, we got Missouri, Tennessee, 12 noon on CBS. You give Missouri any shot in this one?
Seriously? The game's over as soon as they step off the freaking bus. Tennessee is going to kill them.
I think so, but
Missouri's not good. Missouri is just not good. And they got this is a good game for Hendon Hooker to get back into his rhythm.
This is true, but now Missouri has won 2 out of 3, and they gave Kentucky a pretty good game. So
next thing you're going to tell me Will Levis is the top 5 quarterback going into the draft next year.
I don't say that, but there's a lot of people that do, but it's not me. So yeah, okay. It's a 21-point spread, so we'll take the balls in that one. We got Indiana coming to the Horseshoe to play the Buckeyes. I think it said I read somewhere that Ohio State's won like 28 in a row. It's a 40-point spread. I don't think they're going to beat them by 40. I like Tom Allen too much to say that. But I think the Buckeyes take care of business. The big games that we really need to discuss real quick are Alabama, Ole Miss. Alabama is favored by 12 going into Oxford. What do you think about that game?
That's
who do you think is going to win?
I think Alabama's going to win, but 12 is a lot of points. I would take I'll take Ole Miss in the points. I think 12 is just an awful lot.
What about Maryland, Penn State?
Honestly, you look back at the Wisconsin-Maryland game last week, if that game did not have the 50-mile-an-hour driving force winds and rain, Maryland may have probably won that game. But because they're not a running team, they're not a physical team. And Wisconsin just played the game they always kind of play, and it benefited them. Honestly, I'm going to take Penn State in this one. I think they're going to win, but I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. I think this is going to be a game where the team in the 40s is going to have the most points. Whoever gets 41st wins. Yeah, but I think that's going to be Penn State.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, this is a big game for Maryland. I mean, if they can win this game and beat Penn State, on the road, I think it really shows that Maryland's, a team to be reckoned with in the Big Ten.
Loxley is recruited well. I mean, I don't think people realize the hard work he's done there, and there's a good recruiting base in that Maryland area, that DMV area.
Oh yeah, we know some guys from that area.
Absolutely.
Another game that no one's talking about, but should be pretty interesting, is the Gus Bus, who's got, they couldn't get the Gus Bus's ass out of Auburn quick enough. And here he is at UCF, in year 2, and he's 7-2, getting ready to take on 8-1 Tulane in New Orleans at Yeoman Stadium. What do you think about the job that Gus Bus has done at UCF? He's taken a running back from or wide receiver from Ole Miss, turned him back into a quarterback, and Plumlee's done a pretty good job. What do you think about UCF, and who do you think is going to win between them and Tulane? The line is 2, Tulane.
I think Gus has done an amazing job at UCF. I quite frankly, I think the expectations just got so out of whack at Auburn that no matter what he did, it was never going to be good enough. And I think it was good for him to get out of there. And you can see he's found his passion again. But at the same time, Willie Fritz is possibly one of the most underrated coaches in America that nobody knows about. I mean, everywhere this guy has gone. I mean, this guy is a guy who came through it the hard way. Junior college, Division III, Division II, 1AA, Sun Belt school, now at an American school. I mean, this guy's gone the real hard route, and all he does is win.
I'm so glad you mentioned Division III.
Yeah.
Because the battling Bishops of Ohio Wesleyan took down the Wittenberg Tigers in a North Coast Athletic Conference showdown on Saturday. It was the first victory for the Bishops over Wittenberg since October 21st, 2006, snapping a 13-game losing streak to the Tigers. Oh, my God, I was happy watching that one.
Was it online?
Yeah.
Nice.
So I watched it on my phone.
Nice.
And I watched it in its entirety. And Coach Delaney and the boys held the guys from Springfield to 7 points for the first time in my lifetime. And that was a huge victory for Coach Watts and the boys.
Nice victory.
So you going Tulane?
I'm going Tulane. I mean, Willie Fritz is just a phenomenal coach. And I honestly, if I'm Colorado right now, I would take a serious look at Willie Fritz. He's not a flashy name, but honestly, this guy just knows how to win. And I think you got to rebuild that culture there.
Yeah. All right. Last game for you. I want to get your opinion on this one. Illinois was 7-1 last week. We were already penciling them in to the Big Ten championship game. And Michigan State shows up without 8 of their players and beats their ass. So now they're 7-2, and they're playing 5-4 Purdue. Who wins that one?
Who do I want to win, or who do I think is going to win?
Who do you think is going to win? It's Illinois is favored by 6.5.
Illinois.
Okay.
I mean, for Purdue, I want Purdue to win, but Purdue in the last couple of games, their injuries are catching up to them. They're starting to show it. I mean, 35-24 against Wisconsin, it really wasn't that close. And Spencer Petras, we have found that he has his best game when there's 50-mile-an-hour driving force winds. Suddenly he knows how to throw the ball during that point. So if Iowa could play the rest of their season in 50-mile-an-hour winds, Iowa could have a good offense the rest of the year. And but I don't think that's going to happen. Just call me crazy.
Pigs could also fly. So
they could.
We'll see. But yeah, I'm just know that there's one thing. I will be cheering for the Cornhuskers this weekend at 3:30 p.m. on ABC. Nebraska goes into Ann Arbor and our 29.5-point dogs. Come on, guys. We need you to pull one out. Can Nebraska win a game ever that matters?
If it's a one-score game, no.
No. Okay. I didn't think so.
It's not possible.
But I'll still be cheering for him. So
Yeah.
we'll break it all down on Sunday, and we'll figure out what happens. But another good week of college football. Like I said, I was proud of the Vols, the way they played in the second half. I thought that was a huge showing to come out and hold Georgia to 3 points, give their team a chance. I mean, they couldn't get it done on offense, but that's the best defense in the country, bar none. And, to hold their Georgia offense to 3 points and give your team a chance, I thought was impressive. And I think, as you mentioned, I think they'll get back on track with Mizzou coming to town in 3 days. What is day? Tuesday. Okay. 3 days. All right. Well, that's going to wrap us up for today. As we mentioned, special show Tuesday, Ghetto Tuesday show. Appreciate everybody tuning in. James, keep your chin up, and we'll see if your Tulane Green Wave can get it done against the Gus Bus.
Oh, I also have one more prediction before we sign off.
What's that?
John Gruden is not going to be the coach of the South Florida Bulls. All right. Just because a job opens up does not mean John Gruden is going to get the job. If Ball State opens up, John Gruden will not go to Ball State either. So I just want to put that out there for public knowledge.
I bet he would take the job if he was offered.
Do you think so?
Yeah. I mean, I think the guy just wants to coach football. I don't know. I heard him do an interview at the Arkansas football club meeting or whatever. And, I got to be honest, I feel kind of bad for the guy. I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't agree with what he said in his emails, but when there's 650,000 emails that are investigated and 4 of them are published, somebody wanted that guy, out in the street, and they got it done.
You could be right.
They got it done. All right. Well, we're going to get out of here, but we will be back. Don't worry. We're going to be back in just a few days on Sunday, and we'll break down everything that happens on college football Saturday as we are moving into week 11. I can't believe how fast this season has gone.
I know.
I wish I could push the pause button because I love college football. It makes me happy.
You bet.
All right, bud. Keep your chin up, and I will talk to you again real soon.
Party on, Wayne.
Peace out.